Tonight's story is Max and the Incredible Shrinking Machine. If you liked this story, please subscribe to our channel. We would greatly appreciate it. Thank you and enjoy tonight's bedtime story. One sunny afternoon, Max, the miniature inventor, was busy tinkering in his backyard workshop. His round glasses kept slipping down his nose as he fiddled with a strange-looking machine. This wasn't just any machine. It was Max's latest invention, the incredible shrinking machine. Max was thrilled with his new creation. "Just imagine all the possibilities," he exclaimed, pushing his glasses back up his nose. "We could shrink down furniture to fit more in a room, or make tiny toys even tinier." With a proud smile, Max attached a small metal object to the machine's platform. He carefully turned a dial, and with a hum and a flash, the object shrank down to the size of a grain of rice. Max laughed in delight. "It works! It really works!" But as Max leaned in closer to examine the shrunken object, he didn't notice his elbow nudging the machine's dial. Suddenly, the machine sprang to life again, and before Max could react, a bright flash enveloped him. When the light faded, Max found himself standing in a very different world. The familiar surroundings of his workshop had transformed into a massive, towering landscape. The grass blades around him stood like tall trees, and the tiny pebbles on the ground were now the size of boulders. Max realized with a jolt he had shrunk himself. "Oh no," Max gasped. "I must have hit the dial. I've got to get back to normal size before something finds me." With his heart racing, Max strapped on his tool belt and adjusted his backpack. He knew he had to reach the incredible shrinking machine and reverse the process, but it was all the way across the now giant backyard. Max took a deep breath and set off on his tiny journey. As he made his way through the towering grass, Max suddenly heard a rustling noise. He looked up and saw a massive ant marching straight toward him. The ant's enormous antennae twitched as it approached, and Max quickly realized that he needed to think fast. He reached into his tool belt and pulled out a small, modified flashlight he had built earlier. With a click, he turned it on, and a bright beam of light shone directly in the ant's path. The ant, startled by the sudden flash, stopped in its tracks, confused. Max seized the opportunity and scurried away as fast as his tiny legs could carry him. "Phew, that was close," Max muttered to himself. But there was no time to rest. He still had to cross the open patio, which now seemed like a vast desert of bricks, to reach the machine. Just as Max was halfway across, he felt a shadow pass over him. He looked up and saw a bird circling overhead. The bird's sharp eyes had spotted something small and moving on the ground. Max. "Oh no, not again," Max whispered, trying to stay as still as possible. But the bird swooped down, its beak open, ready to snatch him up. Max frantically reached into his backpack and pulled out a handful of tiny metal gears. With a quick flick of his wrist, he tossed them into the air. The gears spun and glittered in the sunlight, catching the bird's attention. Distracted, the bird veered off course, giving Max just enough time to dive into a crack between the bricks. Max's heart pounded in his chest, but he knew he couldn't stop now. He carefully peered out from his hiding spot and saw that the bird had flown away, losing interest in its tiny target. Max scrambled out from the crack and finally reached the base of the incredible shrinking machine. To him, the machine now looked like a massive skyscraper. But Max was determined. He spotted a dangling wire within reach and began to climb. Hand over hand, Max pulled himself up the side of the machine. His small size made the climb difficult, but Max was nothing if not resourceful. When he reached the control panel, he quickly set the dial back to its original position. "Here goes nothing," Max said, pressing the button with all his might. The machine whirred to life again, and in an instant, Max was enveloped in a bright light. When the light faded, Max opened his eyes to find himself back to his normal size, standing safely in his workshop. Max let out a sigh of relief and laughed. That was quite an adventure, he said, brushing some dirt off his overalls. With a grin, Max turned off the incredible shrinking machine and decided it was time to make a few adjustments. Maybe I'll add a safety switch next time, he said thoughtfully. Just in case. And with that, Max put away his tools and headed inside, ready to share his incredible adventure with anyone who would listen. Because, after all, there was no invention too big or too small for Max the miniature inventor. If you liked this story, please check out the rest of our videos and subscribe to our channel. We would greatly appreciate it. Good night.